This upcoming Tuesday, Barcelona is going to be hosting PSG, and finally Barcelona is going to be playing at home. We had 2 away games in a row, and now Barcelona are finally going to be able to go back to their own stadium and play in front of the fans. But this time, Barcelona are going to be playing the game of their life, and most likely the game of the season. Barcelona have the responsibility to get a winning result against PSG. One more win and Barcelona are going to the semifinals. And I'm pretty sure that Xavi Hernández and Luis Enrique are going to want to surprise each other through tactics, because last time we saw Xavi Hernández use Rafinha as an underlying weapon and Lamine Yamal as the main bait. We even saw other tactics about Lewandowski dropping deeper in order to receive the ball, and then for Rafinha to make those runs behind the defense. Luis Enrique also readjusted his front three in the second half. We saw Dembélé go to the left wing position and be the second striker to Kylian Mbappe, and Mbappe was a number 9, a position that he does not usually play. So I expect for both coaches to go into this game with unexpected tactics. But I do want to speak about something very important today, since we are 24 hours away from this game happening. And I want to speak about how Barcelona are going to be defending against PSG, because that is how Barcelona won in the first game. It was through great defending. And I feel like Xavi Hernández is going to be opting for the same thing. Usually when we saw PSG in possession and they were in our own half, we created a low to mid block and a lot of zonal defending. We were compact from the inside, which prevented for players like Kylian Mbappe to ever receive the ball. Xavi Hernández really got this aspect of the game really well. And again, I feel like the same thing is going to happen. It also prevented for runners to run from behind, and PSG did not have any real answer to this mid block that Barcelona did create. And every time Barcelona won the ball back, whether it's through a mistake from PSG or whatever else, right, Barcelona went on the counter and they punished PSG over and over again. Just look at the minute difference between this picture here and this picture here. It's only a 40-second difference, which goes to show just how fast Barcelona can turn the game around. So will Barcelona do the exact same thing? It's very much possible. Many might assume that if Barcelona play like this at our own stadium, it would be disrespectful, but I don't think so. I think that Barcelona do have a correct plan. It's the most reasonable plan because of the players that we do lack, right? The type of profiles that we don't have. And I feel like the fact that Barcelona can go on there, defend well, regain possession, and go on the counter, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I expect these players to really score a lot of goals if they come in at 100% as always. So we are going to be expecting for these players to sit in a mid block, press them well sometimes, not step up too much, because we don't want any players to come out of their own zone. In the last game, Barcelona had like the lowest possession in a league or European game under Xavi, which was a total of 41.5%. That was like the all-time lowest. But the fact that Barcelona were still able to score 3 goals against PSG, it shows that they were very direct and they punished PSG through their errors. Isn't it funny how back then Barcelona used to suffer against teams that did stuff like this? Like, does this not sound familiar? At one point through the season or in the past like 2 years, Barcelona had all the possession. We had to work around a mid to low block, and sometimes when we made a mistake or a misplaced pass, we end up conceding a goal. Now Barcelona's on the other side of this, and they're very good at doing it. On the other hand, with PSG, Luis Enrique has really been trying to Barcelonify PSG, and it has not worked very well. So one of the reasons why I'm even talking about this is because Barcelona are going to be without Christensen and Sergi Roberto. Those 2 players are going to be suspended, and the reason why I think that Barcelona are going to go with the exact same defensive plan, right, zonal marking, it is because it does benefit players like Frenkie, Pedri, and Gundogan to defend better, because I do believe that that is going to be the midfield that Barcelona are going to be having. It is going to be Frenkie, Pedri, and Gundogan. There has been multiple sources claiming that Xavi Hernández has already his set midfield, and they found out through some people that this is going to be the starting midfield. Now again, it does get me very nervous, I'm not going to lie, to have Frenkie, Pedri, and Gundogan as our midfield, because there is no anchor, right? There is no true defensive midfielder. And I know that players like Frenkie, Pedri, and Gundogan, they're going to want to drive the ball up. They have those tendencies. So we're going to have to be very responsible when we do have to defend our own spaces. Like if we wanted, right, if we wanted a more well-balanced midfield, it would be Christensen, Frenkie, and Gundogan. Christensen does carry a lot of defensive capabilities, but when you add players like Pedri, Frenkie, and Gundogan, you're going to need Pedri as an 8 and then have your double pivot becoming Gundogan and Frenkie. Not a lot of defensive abilities there. Now maybe we can argue that we can put Fermin Lopez, Frenkie, and Gundogan, with Fermin Lopez becoming that, you know, that defensive midfielder and really press from the front while Frenkie and Gundogan stay behind. But still, I don't think so. I think that if you drop Pedri for Fermin Lopez, you're also going to be dropping a lot of creativity within the central midfield area. So I think that there is no other choice. There is no other way Xavi Hernández can like fix this. It has to be Frenkie, it has to be Pedri, and it has to be Gundogan. I mean, look, if you look at the previous match that Barcelona played, which was against Cádiz, Gundogan and Frenkie Frenkie did not play. So for sure, those two players will be there. There's not going to be anything like Audio Romeo with Frenkie or Romeo with Gundogan or Fermin Lopez, Frenkie and Gundogan. It's not going to be happening. It's going to be Pedri, Frenkie, and Gundogan. It's the safest, it's the most possible, and I feel like this is what the starting 11 will look like. It's going to be Ter Stegen in goal, Koundé, right back, Araujo, and Cubarsi, center back pairing, Cancelo, left back, Gundogan, Frenkie, Pedri, midfield. Up top, we will have Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski, and Rafinha. Now, this is going to be another alternative that many have been thinking about, and I do want to give my own input because there has been so many conversations about Cubarsi maybe playing as a CDM. Now, don't lie, I can't be the only one here where I feel like this sounds like a good idea, because if you guys have seen the game where Cubarsi did play against Cadiz, the calmness that he does have when it comes to decision making, right? Every time he gets pressed, he does not get nervous at all. It really does remind everybody of Sergio Busquets. He's just so calm, he knows how to tackle, he knows how to intercept, and every time he regains the ball, he immediately passes it like 0.1 seconds after to another player. Like usually when a defender or like a central defensive midfielder wins the ball after a defensive duel, they take about 2 or 3 seconds to pass the ball to some other player. Cubarsi takes like about less than a second. He's so quick, and you need a profile like that as a CDM, which is why everybody has been saying Cubarsi would make a great central defensive midfielder, simply because he is such a progressive passer. And I'm not going to lie, like I would feel comfortable having Cubarsi being paired up with Frenkie de Jong because of his passing range. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but his passing range is also really good. He knows how to pass it from the back and all the way to a player like Lewandowski with great speed, great composure, and it gets there in the best way possible. He breaks like 2 lines. I would even argue that potentially if Cubarsi can play as a CDM, he would have the exact same versatility like Mascherano. Mascherano was also the last player that was successful that could play as a CDM and also as a center back. It's very exciting. Now, in terms of like profile between Mascherano and Cubarsi, they're totally different. But I'm talking about in terms of like versatility. What positions could they take? It's the exact same thing. And if you look at the stats that Cubarsi had against Cadiz, he had 95 touches, 69 out of 81 passes completed, which was the most, 5 out of 12 long balls completed, 8 passes into the final third, 0 times dispossessed, 1 shot, 1 dribble, 1 block, 9 clearances, 4 headed clearances, 9 ball recoveries, and he was dribbled past not 1 time. Do these stats not remind you of a CDM? It's very interesting. I have also heard that, like sometimes there is no reason to have Frenkie de Jong on the field because you have someone like Cubarsi who can progress play from deep and through his passing. Like he does not rely so much on running circles, dribbling with the ball, because the fastest way to progress play is through your passing, and Cubarsi does that multiple times from the back. And so I can understand why Cubarsi's game would benefit Barcelona because it's simply faster and more beneficial. But let's be careful, right? I know that these are facts, but let's be careful. Let's assess this team at the end of the season. I think that yes, there is some truth to this, but I think that right now it's not the time to be saying that, Frenkie de Jong should be dropped and we should have Cubarsi in the midfield with other players. Many have been saying, what would be the whole point of having Frenkie if Cubarsi knows how to play out from the back? Let's talk about this after the season is over. And so look, it does make sense. Let's say tomorrow Xavi Hernández does the most surprising thing against PSG. This is most likely how it would look like. Koundé, Araujo, Inigo Martinez as a center back, Cancelo on the left back position, Cubarsi, Frenkie, and Gundogan as the number 8, Yamal, Lewandowski, and Rafinha up top. And then we would have Pedri come in for Frenkie de Jong to become that impact player later in the game. But here's the thing, right? There are 2 reasons why I don't think Xavi Hernández will do this. Point number 1, I don't think that Xavi would have the balls to put Cubarsi in a new position for the first time and against PSG in a quarterfinal match. Point number 2, the fact that we're going to be having Inigo Martinez as a center back to be paired with Araujo, I feel like that would be disaster. He's not the most reliable player when it comes to him getting like pressed when he has the ball. I would much rather have Cubarsi there as our last man. So I don't think that it would happen. I know that it sounds great on paper, but I feel like you need trial and error in order for a starting 11 like this to work before you even begin using this against a team like PSG, because it is going to be very difficult. It's going to be a very difficult match. Like PSG pressed Barcelona very well last game. It was a man-to-man press. Luckily for Barcelona, they were able to defeat the press because we had players like Cubarsi. So in the end, the first starting 11 that we did predict is going to be the one, is the most well-known. And also, I think that Frenkie, Pedri, and Gundogan can really give out a good performance, because the last time they played together like this, in this way, was back when Barcelona won against Atletico Madrid 1-0. Pedri and Gundogan came out that game with the most chances created with a total of 3. They were even. Gundogan also had the most passes completed with 89. Frenkie de Jong was the most defensive out there out of all 3 midfielders. He had 2 blocks, 1 clearance, 3 interceptions, and 5 recoveries. And here is going to be a picture on what it looked like. You can see that Frenkie de Jong was the deepest player, Gundogan was the second one, and then we have Pedri as the highest midfielder. And that is exactly what we are probably going to be seen in the match against PSG. Xavi Hernández also had a lot of praise when they played together, and he said this: they were good in aggressiveness, in duels, and pressure after losing the ball, and in ball distribution. So expect this 11 to be very technical, right? This lineup is so technical, it's not even funny. It's going to be the first time that we assemble an 11 like this because, you know, a lot of these players did play together, but the last time Frenkie, Gundogan, and Pedri played together, Cubarsi was not even known. He was nowhere near the squad. But I feel like this version is going to be way better. Expect great defending, expect zonal marking with a low block, expect a lot of focus, and we have to make sure that when we have players like Dembélé, Mbappe, Asensio, or Barcola going on the counter with the ball, all players have to go back. All players. Like it's very dangerous. It's going to be very intense, and they all have to be responsible on defending. Pedri, Gundogan, Frenkie, they're going to have to play their heart out defensively and regain the ball as fast as possible. Like all players have to go back. There is no such thing as one player or two players just stay up top. No, that cannot exist. We have to defend as a unit. And so that is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.